So one of the things the Lord was working with me with for a while was minding my thoughts. And in order to do this, to create white space, to create time where you are doing nothing, where you are just paying attention to the thoughts that come in. Now, I tried meditation, and meditation had me stressed. It had me vexed because I'm trying not to think. And it drove me nuts that I couldn't master this skill. This was way before I really uh, lost my life to the Lord. But what he said was, I want you to try meditation a different way. He taught me that meditation was a way for you to connect with the divine. So his method of meditation for me was, I want you to just sit with a cup of tea and drink that cup of tea with no music, no TV, no phone, no nothing. Just sit. So I would sit with that, and I would have to deal with my flesh as things came up, and I wanted to be able to access my electronics, my fun gadgets, and I couldn't do it. So I had to find ways to just crucify the flesh, to just self-soothe, to be at peace, and to just pay attention to what came up. I ended up getting better at this practice, but if you think about it, it's oftentimes the same things you have to battle with meditation, except for I was paying attention to my thoughts and really evaluating my thoughts. Now, there were many times in which the Lord had me do this throughout my day. So when I was in the car, instead of listening to music, to not listen to anything, but pay attention to my thoughts and create this calm within my being. Even when I worked out, to pay attention to my thoughts instead of listening to music. When I was in my house, to find more opportunities to take out the headphones, to lift the head up from whatever it is that I was watching, my computer, my phone, and just observe and pay attention to my thoughts. Even when I would lay down, instead of going to sleep listening to something, or watching something, he would have me just to do nothing. And it really allowed me to evaluate my thoughts. And what I found was that a lot of my thoughts were negative. A lot of my thoughts were dark. A lot of my thoughts were pitted against individuals. And it was like incessant. It just would not stop. And I was surprised to see when I woke up in the morning, I had these negative thoughts. When I went to bed, I was going to bed with negative thoughts. Throughout my day, I was having negative thoughts. And the Lord showed me how Satan was working with that power of suggestion, with working within my thoughts to create seeds of darkness that I was just watering and nurturing all day because I wasn't minding them. So when I acted, it came from that place of darkness that had been building all day. It was just that level of frustration and irritation that resided on the surface, that whenever I engaged someone, that's what they meant. That's what came out, because that was what was in me. So he taught me about how your thoughts, when you allow those thoughts to continue, they create strongholds. They create thoughts in which the soul grabs hold to and defends tooth and nail. And when you have that happening, it begins to stir up emotions that you can actually feel in your flesh. When it's in your flesh, you can now feel it. It's in the body, and it's not long before you act on it because it's in the body. And that's how the devil uses you, as an instrument of sin. So you really have to mind your thoughts. So with that being said, He also continued to give me strategy about it as well. One of the things in which he told me was that I needed to resist. So number one, I needed to resist, and I needed to stop that thought in its track and not just let it keep going until it became an issue. To resist. When I had time, he gave me a prayer to say, and it goes a little something like this. Lord, I turn this negative emotion over to you. It does not serve me or the purpose that you have for me. The battle is not mine, it's yours. I cast it over to you. I trust you with it. And that's short enough to be able to say on the spot, but it's long enough to create the interruption so that thought doesn't just keep repeating and has a chance to take hold of. So how do we know what thoughts we need to do that with, what thoughts we need to resist? Well, these thoughts that are coming through, we need to be able to hold those thoughts captive to Christ. We need to be able to say, okay, wait a minute, what's going on? This thought just keeps repeating and repeating. What's happening? Okay, so I need to hold these thoughts captive to Christ and bring them under Christ. Are these thoughts noble? Are they true? Are they just? Are they right? Are they admirable? Are they worthy of praise? If they are not, then they are not of God. They are of the devil. And we need to be able to implement our strategy to deal with those thoughts, right? We need to be able to allow Christ to be able to change them. So another way I think of holding them captive to Christ is not just evaluating if those thoughts are Christ-like, but walk them to Christ. How do I look at this situation and see it differently in a Christ-like way? So instead of saying he never, she ain't, she shouldn't, I will say, well, you know what? They're here. They're present. This is what they do. They try their best. Their intentions are in the right place, although they may be off the mark. But how can I come alongside them to support them? So how do I make this thought loving? That's different than thinking positive. That's thinking that just different than just like, oh yeah, everything's all good, rainbows and sunshine. No, let me look at the truth of the situation and see if I can find the good in it so I could walk this negative thought over to Christ. So I could say, next time I think about that, I've already made the transformation of that thought. So now I just got to keep continually moving in that direction. But I'm telling you, minding your thoughts with those simple meditative practices, really, which is just sitting and creating space. We don't realize how much of our time is put in a computer, put in a phone with headphones on. We're just tucked away from our very thoughts. But not only for that reason, but because the Lord desires to speak to us, and the Lord desires to communicate with us in different ways that we need to allow ourselves to be sensitive to. And when we're so busy caught up in all of these things, it shuts that off. And you could say, oh, well, the Lord uses those things to be able to speak to me. Well, if the Lord uses those things to speak to you, the devil can use those things to speak to you too and lead you astray or cause confusion and issues to where now you don't know what to do and it wreaks havoc in your life. So just consider today making white space. Where can you make white space at in your life so that you can mind your thoughts?